Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my Stager YouTube channel. If you are seeing my face for the first time, my name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. Today I am wearing pink-ish. It's like is this mulberry? Would you describe this as mulberry? Because I am once again going to be talking to you about Legally Blonde. So when I went to go and review the revival of Legally Blonde at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, I made a video about it, and in that video I said I would be bringing you another video talking about all of the changes that have been made in more detail. And I kept sitting down to do this as the run was going on, and what I ended up deciding was I had already put my feelings about this production out into the universe, which were generally very positive, with a few little things creatively about the production that I maybe disagreed with. And I didn't want any video about the changes to deter anyone from going and seeing the show if they were a really big fan of it, because I think it would put off a lot of musical theatre fans to hear that it's so different from the original production, when in reality the heart of the show and the characters and the storyline is still very much the same. It's just on the face of it, it's had a lot of cosmetic procedures performed on the script and the lyrics, shall we say, but it's still the same person underneath. So because of all of that, I decided to save this production until after the run had finished. If you don't know, it's recently finished its limited run at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre. This production has closed. As of right now, there is no word about a transfer to another venue or a remounting of this production, and we have seen it for the last time. So I'm going to tell you now all about this production retrospectively as a piece of theatre that happened and everything that they did differently, just because it's fascinating to me how many little changes there were. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on some of these as well, and how they impacted other parts of characterization and plot and narrative and audience experience, and how it kind of indicates and speaks to how they were trying to transform and modernize and reconceive this show. So I'll start with some big picture stuff, which is the aesthetics. Now, whenever we've seen Legally Blonde performed, for the most part, aesthetically the set has looked a certain way, the costumes have looked a certain way, and the cast have looked a certain way. This was the first indicator to us that the show was going to be different when the casting for this production was announced. I mean, really the first indicator, if you're paying any kind of attention, was when Lucy Moss was announced to direct. You knew for a fact she was not going to be giving you a cookie cutter, generic, traditional Legally Blonde. She was going to give you something far more interesting and up to date, which she did. She cast Courtney Bowman, Six alumnus, everybody's talking about Jamie alumnus, as Elle Woods. Courtney is a plus-size performer of colour who also happens to be hilarious, an amazing vocalist, and a phenomenal talent. But in doing this, Lucy has reconceived the traditional casting of Elle Woods as a blonde, skinny white girl, and sent out a powerful message that this story and this narrative can apply to anyone. And what I like about this casting is that it was consistent, because Vanessa Fisher, who was cast as Vivian, was also the understudy for Elle, which is fascinating by itself. But it means that whatever performance you were going to see, even though Courtney didn't end up missing any shows, you were always going to see a black performer as Elle Woods. And the same for Emmett, because Michael, who played Emmett as the principal for that role, was black, as was Billy, who understudied the role and did end up going on. Additionally, further great casting choices were made. Isaac Hesketh, who is an amazing non-binary performer, was cast in the role of Margot, and Ali Daniel, an amazing trans performer, understudied Isaac in that role. So again, whichever performance you're seeing, you are seeing an amazing trans/non-binary performer as one of the 3 Delta Nu girls, which I think is just great, and is a really great way of including representation in a very casual way that isn't going to affect anything in the plot and isn't going to require any kind of changes, and just fits in so neatly. It's the kind of thing that you think, yes, why hasn't this been reflected in our featured character parts, in our ensemble parts? Because it works so well. And it's a great way of featuring talented performers, because Isaac and Ali were both standouts in the entire production. Let me talk a little bit about design now. So everything was very pink. The set was entirely pink. It was not giving you like hyper-realistic locations. It was giving you like this big pink platform with levels and stairs, and they would pull out little bits and pieces to suggest some different locations, and there were some very cumbersome benches. I mean, you're outdoors at Regent's Park, the whole thing's a massive thrust. They don't have flies, they don't have wings, they can't rise up from the ground unless you drill into the park, which I'm not sure if that's even legal, or if the Queen's gonna sue you or something. Does the Queen actually do that, or is that just when you attack a swan? I don't even know, our country's strange. But it's a very challenging playing space, and they did what they could with it, but everything was exceptionally pink. Costuming, Elle and all of her friends were all in head-to-toe pink in very modern outfits. We'll talk more about the modern aesthetics in just a second. Paulette and everyone associated with her all in orange, like neon, garish, traffic cone orange. Brooke Wyndham and her dancers were all in the sort of turquoise teal type moment, and everyone at Harvard Law other than Elle was rocking a brownish, greyish, very Zara, very Shine kind of a look. So as I was watching this production, I was noticing quite a few script and lyric changes and thinking, gosh, that's quite interesting. And I always have an ear out for lyrics anyway. It's always one of the things I'm paying the most attention to when I'm seeing any kind of a show, and especially a show I know well, I'm going to notice if there are changes. Now, I want to point out, I did not write these down during the production. I was there to review. I don't like to make notes. I like to just enjoy and experience and then write about it subsequently. So on the train back afterwards, not only was I starting to write my review, I was also frantically compiling a list of all of the script and lyric changes that I could remember. So this is not necessarily going to be an exhaustive list. If you can think of some that I do not mention here, please let me know down in the comments. Equally, if I get any wrong, I am very sorry. I had 2 glasses of wine. Don't at me, it was a press night, the wine was free. So Enid Hoops is a character that has seen a lot of changes, and this is because Enid Hoops was cast as a non-binary performer and kind of seemed to be conceived as a non-binary character. Not specifically, but that was definitely the vibe that seemed to be coming across, because there is now no mention of lesbianism as a concept, at least not in so many words, because Professor Callahan towards the beginning used to say, you lesbians think you're so tough, and it's changed to you feminists think you're so tough. And there are so many feminist references for Enid Hoops throughout the show that have stayed, like the whole Gloria Steinem thing at the party. Enid Hoops still very much radical feminist, but no longer named as a lesbian. And I have mixed feelings about this, because the representation for lesbians admittedly was not great, because Enid Hoops was not that positive a lesbian character. She was kind of a stereotype. In fact, she was very much a stereotype, let's just say that. And to have a canonically non-binary character within the plot of Legally Blonde is something I very much do enjoy, and it reflects the more modern world that this has been updated to. And yet it's never really acknowledged or said, and it kind of feels like you're losing one of the canonically queer characters in Legally Blonde that has the most stage time. And for a version of the show that's supposed to be a more queer reimagining, it does feel like we're losing something at the same time. Because also, Enid Hoops definitely still attracted to women in the second act, because they still make the joke when Elle does the bend and snap and Enid goes, please, yeah, do that again. So they're still playing on that. They don't do the joke with Brooke Wyndham and the pausing of the DVD that they did in the original production, but very much still playing on that idea and making a joke out of that character's sexuality. Also, Enid Hoops' verses at the beginning when they introduce themselves in the Harvard variations with the other students, those lyrics are all completely different. I didn't manage to make a note of what the new lyrics are because I was too busy getting whiplash from the fact that they'd changed. While we're on the subject of Enid, Enid no longer gets the perm at the end of the show, very possibly because the performer playing Enid has a buzz cut, incredibly short hair. Warner gets the perm instead. Now the guy playing Warner had these long, lovely locks of hair, so he ended up getting the perm, which some people thought was strange and a pointless change. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. I thought it kind of helped to trivialize him as this character that isn't that integral to the legal team. He's just there to look pretty, which it was funny. Complete with the way that he was playing that character, it was really funny. Oh my god, hey guys, so I am literally right here editing the Legally Blonde video that you are watching right now. This is very meta, and also how the magic happens. And while I am doing this, also Erin is here.
Hello.
Hope you're proud of yourself. While I am doing this, I have thought of 3 changes that I don't talk about in this video, and I would be remiss not to bring them up because I told you this was all the changes in Legally Blonde, so we need to be specific. 1, the bend and snap itself is actually different. Did you notice this? They don't like bend and then snap up, because originally bend and snap is very much just like, here's the butt and here are the boobs. Like the bend and snap has a function as well as just being generic moves. Now it's like a slut drop in like a, it's a ballet thing, isn't it? It's
more of a plie.
Plie, it's a plie. It's not a slut drop, it's a plie. Thank you, Erin. It's a plie, and then they do like a Schuyler Sisters work snap out, which is fierce and choreographic, but it's not like ostensibly very sexual.
It'd be hard for somebody to pick it up. Like, what it's meant to be a rule that is like, this is the bend and snap.
Yeah.
Now it's like, it's the bend, plie, snap, snap.
It's the plie and work. Look how hard it's getting. Like, I just don't think that that's going to notoriously get all the guys. And the other thing to do with that, and I do love this, Courtney as Elle changed the line from it has 100% effectiveness on straight men. She now says straight and bi men. Love the inclusivity there. I liked that. Did you like that?
I really enjoyed that.
Pringles over here enjoyed that. I have another one, but it's relevant to a different part of the video, so I will be back. There were some other lyric changes that had already been implemented in the original UK version of the show like 10 years ago. So the lyrics to Ireland are different. Feel free to look them up online. There's recordings of both versions. The UK Ireland has always been very different to the US Ireland for no discernible reason. Also, there are different UK lyrics in the song Legally Blonde, if only because they didn't seem to want to pay for a door in the West End. So normally he sings, "Please won't you open the door?" And in the UK, he sings, "I should have told you before," because there's no door between them, which completely changes the scene, because it's like if she can hear him confess his love and she still decides to leave, that means so much more, whereas on Broadway it's ambiguous. It's like, is she hearing him or is she just too busy belting in her room and he's behind a closed door? In Regent's Park, it's interesting because they had the lyrics where he's confessing his love and there's no door between them, but she's far enough away on the staging and also they're outdoors, so you never know how sound carries. Some more lyrics I'm just going to speed through here that are different. In the song Gay or European, they no longer sing "It's not a fashion curse." Another UK change that had already been made to the lyrics, they don't talk about JetBlue in the lyrics to What You Want Reprise. They mention being cheer team UCLA or something like that, but they don't make a reference to JetBlue. In Callahan's song Blood in the Water, he no longer sings "Your guy goes free and he can even get you laid." Or the updated version, "Your guy goes free and he can get you high and laid." I've heard both of those in the past, but this was a different one. "Your guy goes free, something else, your fee is paid," where he's not being particularly callous or crass with that last line. He's just saying, "Your guy goes free and you get paid." It's very matter of fact, and it's not really characterizing him in the same nefarious way that the previous lyrics did. I'm not sure why that's been changed to make it, on the face of it, less offensive when he's a very offensive character, and the audience needs to know that about him. I'm back! Here is the other one that I didn't remember to talk to you about. Warner sees the slap as well as the kiss. So normally, Warner sees just the kiss and then Vivian pushes him out of the window so he doesn't see the slap, so he doesn't get that Elle's not actually sleeping her way to the top and Vivian's like, "Warner, shut up." In this one, Warner sees the whole thing and is still a douche about it, which, very interesting directing choice. I kind of touched on that a little bit in my review, but I thought that was worth bringing up as a substantial change to the show. Thoughts on that?
I think it makes Vivian's turn stronger as well.
Yeah.
Like, it adds more, I think, to Vivian's arc. Less about Warner, but more just, I think it adds more to why Vivian's so aggravated. Well, she would be anyhow,
yeah.
But...
I think as well that we were very naive back in 2007 to think, well, the man didn't have all the facts. And sometimes the man can have all of the facts.
And still be a douche.
And still slut shame and still come to the wrong conclusion. Mm-hmm. So more powerful, I think. Smart of Lucy Moss. Yeah. Back to your previously scheduled video. Some other lyric changes that were happening in the Harvard variations. Now these are also character name changes, and this ties in with another conversation as well, because almost all references to race throughout the show that even seemed innocuous before and not necessarily racist with a capital R have been excised from the show. I'll give you an example. The theme of this year's Spring Fling Beer Bash Extreme is no longer "Jamaican Me Crazy." That line is just gone and they just don't mention it. So who knows what the theme is? I will lie awake at night wondering what the theme of this year's Spring Fling Beer Bash Extreme is. But it's not "Jamaican Me Crazy," which kind of doesn't then explain stylistically why the subsequent rap sounds the way it does, because it's reggae, basically. I guess that's just a fun Easter egg for people who saw the original production of the show, and if you're seeing it now for the first time, that won't necessarily make sense. But back to the Harvard variations. So you had Aaron Schultz before, who has a Jewish name that never really gets explored, but he is now Aaron White, which is kind of on the nose in the other direction. Equally, Sandeep Parmesan, I don't know what his new name is, but it was not Parmesan, and he has a lyric change as well. He used to sing, "In my country my word was law, but then I flee because of stupid coup d'etat." He no longer says stupid coup d'etat, he now says peasant coup d'etat, which, again, not entirely clear why that lyric has been changed. Are we making him less offensive? Possibly. Did we think it was racist to say stupid coup d'etat because it feels more offensive for him to say peasant coup d'etat? Either way, it's a coup is a coup, so I don't know what you're really achieving. The song Positive had so many lyric changes, I definitely couldn't remember all of them. One that stood out is they no longer say, "Bust out the lap dance and you've won, you off the hizzle G." And this is possibly because Pilar, for one of the first times, is not being played by a black performer. She's being played by a performer of color, but not a black performer. So something that's very AAVE, African American vernacular English, is probably not what we want in that moment if it's not a black performer playing that role. So I get that change. Another interesting one in positive. Elle used to sing "Violence is never wise, not the way to win back guys. Anyway, she's twice my size. Who's got a plan B?" Vanessa Fisher as Vivian is not that much taller than Courtney Bowman as Elle, so they have cut that possibly just for practical reasons. Instead, what they sing is this: "Violence is never good, I believe in sisterhood," and someone else sings "Hit her with a piece of wood," which I like to think someone in the building could have come up with a slightly better lyric than "hit her with a piece of wood," but I enjoy it for how dumb it is. Later in positive, there's a very weird lyric change that I do not understand because it conveys exactly the same idea, it just uses different words. So she used to say, "Girls, I'm positive and try not to get upset, but I'm positive that it's time for me to go brunette." She now sings, "Girls, I'm positive and you might want to sit down, but I'm positive, time to dye my hair a mousy brown." Like, I know that there's some cultural differences between US and UK audiences, but we absolutely know what brunette means. You don't have to say mousy brown to, like, scaffold that for the audience. We understand the concept of being brunette. We've seen enough Head and Shoulders commercials. I just said commercials. How American am I? Adverts in this country is what we say. So yeah, don't get that one. That seemed like a change just for the sake of changing something. Unless that was from the original production, I just never noticed up until this point. But weird. What else do I have here on my list? So another big change for this production is that it's been updated to the modern day. And thinking about Legally Blonde, you wouldn't think that there are that many specific cultural references or indicators that this is a period piece rather than being set in the modern day, but there's little things that remind you of it. Like they set up a camera on a ring light at the beginning. I was trying to find the word for ring light. I'm looking at one. And they do, oh my god, you guys, like they're filming a TikTok, basically. Which is a clever touch, and all of the choreography in the show is quite TikTok-y, and the costuming is very modern, very Gen Z. I can tell because I hate it. Some other more modern, up-to-date references, just with the time period having changed and putting in some more popular cultural things. She no longer says Richard Simmons is our neighbor. To Warner, she says Khloe Kardashian is our neighbor. I'm fascinated by the choice of Khloe out of the Kardashians, and I'm wondering why that was. I would love to discuss with someone why Khloe was chosen. There's lots of smartphones held as props throughout the show. When Elle gives Callahan her resume, she kind of texts it to him or sends it to him, whatever, and rather than sniffing it and it's being pink, he says, "Good God, it's scented." He now says, "Good God, it's interactive," I believe. And rather than saying, "I'd have thrown this out," he said, "I would have deleted this. See that it's put on file," something like that. Also, when they're watching Whipped Into Shape, they're all holding laptops and looking at their laptops and talking at their laptops. And initially I thought they were just standing around having a meeting. No, it's a Zoom meeting. They talk at their laptops because they're meeting each other through that. They're not actually in the same place. A very clever touch. I liked that bit. In that same song, Callahan has a lyric. He used to sing, "Brooke has trouble trusting me because I don't speak MTV." He now says, "Brooke doesn't know who I am because I don't speak Instagram." Modernizing the cultural references. So I don't think anyone speaks MTV anymore. If they do, they don't have many people to talk to. I've written Timothy Chalamet. I can't remember why I've written Timothy Chalamet. I think Timothy Chalamet is who Elle talked out of buying a hideous cable net tube top or something like that, which is hilarious that it's Timothy Chalamet who's now buying a cable net tube top. And yet Beyonce, who that reference used to be about, is still mentioned here. I've written Beyonce photo to her stylist, which I think meant that Paulette says Beyonce shows your photo to her stylist. I think there's some sort of line in there like that where she's complimenting Elle about that. And Beyonce is a great one to choose. A beautiful black woman who has famously rocked a blonde look. In terms of modernizing, any reference to the dates and the years, the graduating class year, that has changed. And Emmett now says, "I haven't slept since 2002. Also, all of the references to Brooke's workout empire is no longer DVDs. She is now an Instagram fitness queen. There's lots of little lines that have been changed to update and reflect this, because of course she is. Vivian has a line at the party where she says, "The summer house is 2 doors down from Justice," and I don't know the Supreme Court justices well enough, but I'm sure it wasn't the same name as is originally in the script, and I'm wondering if they modernized it by referencing a current sitting Supreme Court justice. Maybe someone who's seen the show can fill me in on that one, especially if you are an American and you know the names of the Supreme Court justices. In that same scene, Vivian used to have a line to Elle where she says, "Someday we'll nominate Supreme Court justices and you'll tan." She now says, "We'll nominate Supreme Court justices and you'll soul cycle." I'm wondering if she doesn't say tan because Elle is no longer a white woman, but black women still tan, so I don't know necessarily if that was the thinking behind that, or if they just wanted to modernize it with just another pop culture reference. And I don't know if soul cycle is really the right vibe, because there's something very lethargic and vain about tanning, whereas Soul Cycle is like fitness and positivity, and you'd think a high-powered lawyer probably would do Soul Cycle. So I don't know if it conveys the same kind of a vibe. It doesn't get an obvious laugh from the audience, it gets more of an eyebrow raise, so it doesn't feel successful. The last line change I have here, this one bugs the hell out of me. So Paulette has this line that never landed in the UK. She says, "Welcome to the hair affair, you're with Paulette, so you're in good hands here. I'm like Allstate, but for hair." Now I had to Google what this meant, because "you're in good hands here" is apparently the slogan of an American insurance company, I believe, called Allstate. This is what Google has led me to believe. So it said, "You're in good hands here, I'm like Allstate, but for hair." And Orfeh in the pro shot delivered it very dryly, it got a big laugh. I never got why. Here, she says, "I'm like L'Oreal, but for hair." And my whole thing is, L'Oreal is for hair. That's what L'Oreal is for. That's all L'Oreal is for. So you can't be L'Oreal but for hair, you'd just be L'Oreal. And L'Oreal has its own famous tagline, "because you're worth it." That's their entire thing. So you can't say another tagline and then say, "I'm like L'Oreal, but for hair." No part of that works. It infuriated me, and I had to finish my wine. Another little character change, which is really interesting. The UPS guy is no longer this, like, confident sex symbol guy. He walks in and he's really nervous. Oh, also the dogs are played by people. Should probably have mentioned that. And apparently to go with this, there was a line that changed in every performance. It used to be Bruiser Loves Days of Our Lives. When I saw it, it was Bruiser Loves The Bachelor. Apparently another one was Love Island. I think they should have just said Love Island the entire run, because that's hilarious to me. But yeah, people dogs. You're either for it or against it. But those are all of the changes that I can remember from the Regent's Park Open Air Theatre revival of Legally Blonde. Who knows? We may see this production again. It may get brought back. It may go on to another theatre. It may be replicated somewhere else in the world. We have seen this happen before. So you may yet get to see some of these changes for yourselves. If there were any that I missed and you got to see the show, let me know down in the comments section if there were any other changes that you noticed between this version of the show and the original version of the show. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for plenty more content about all your favourite shows coming very soon. Also, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give me a super thanks down below here. That really helps me to bring you the stagey content that you love. You can also support me by going to patreon.com/MickeyJoeTheatre, where you can gain access to some exclusive photo and video content. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey, thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!